Hello, my name is Ellie. This is what I like to call Looks from the Crypt, where I do my makeup and talk about movies, and we just kind of hang out while I do that. Today we will be talking about The Strangers, one of my favorites, which shouldn't come to any surprise to anyone. I am a pretty huge fan, you could say, seeing as I have a tattoo and all. I just want to note that this video will have spoilers. I will have a timestamp somewhere around here for when I'll get just to the review portion if you're not interested in hearing about what happens. The version I watched is the unrated extended version, so it may differ from the one that's available like streaming on Netflix and things like that right now. So just keep on watching if you want to hang out. Thanks.
Why are you doing this to us?
Because you were home.
The Strangers is a home invasion horror film released in 2008, written and directed by Brian Bertino, starring Liv Tyler, Scott Speedman, and an appearance from Glenn Howerton. The Strangers was inspired by the Manson family Sharon Tate murders, along with a string of home invasions that happened in Bertino's childhood neighborhood growing up. A lot of people see similarities between The Strangers and the Ketty Cabin murders that occurred. However, Bertino's never actually cited those as being anything that has anything to do with the film. Oh my god, I just got shit in my eye. After attending a friend's wedding, James and Kristen return to James's childhood summer home, vacation home, whatever you want to call it. It's a nice secluded, warm, away from civilization kind of vibe. It's really cozy kind of feeling. At this point, we're introduced to the romantic display that James set up for the two. We have roses everywhere, on the bed, on the bath. We got champagne, candles, all that good stuff. However, there's a lot of tension kind of in the room, you know. Pretty clear that James was ready, prepared to come home from the wedding, you know, smash, whatever, all that good stuff. But that's not the way plans played out. We can tell that there's tension, they're not really getting along, things are uncomfortable. James calls his brother Mike, kind of saying hey, I need to get out of the house, I need some space, all that stuff. Are you down to pick me up? And then this is when we kind of get a bit of a flashback to earlier in the night. James chose to propose to Kristen at the wedding, which to me, huge douchebag alert. In my opinion, you're just kind of an ass if you choose to propose to somebody at somebody else's wedding. Anyways, she declined. So this is kind of why things are a little bit weird. They didn't break up or anything. She just said no. And James takes, he's pretty upset by it, reasonably so, but also a little bit too upset in my opinion. They decide to kind of talk it out, I guess. Kristen sort of just explains I'm just not ready for that. She just isn't ready for marriage, which is fine. So they make up, they're gonna smash, they're gonna lay some pipe, whatever. They're gonna just, might as well make use of the romantic setup that's there. Because, why not? And then this is when we hear a knock at the door for the first time. James answers the door and greets a young woman, whatever. We don't really get to see her face too well. And she asks, is Tamara home? James responds, no, haven't heard of her. And she says, are you sure? And he's like, no, I'm definitely sure. I have no idea who that is, bitch who? And then that's when the young woman replies saying, well, see you later. And apparently this was just such a mood killer cock block that Kristen decides, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna go to bed. And that's when James is like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go on a drive. At this point in time, I'm willing to comfortably say that James is kind of a douchebag, He is, he decides to take a bottle of champagne to the dome first before going on this drive. So at this point, I'm kind of just convinced this whole movie is just an anti-drunk driving PSA, which is totally fair. And here we have Kristen, being the sad, moody, complex bitch she is. She decides to put on some Cocoa Rosie and just kind of mope around and be sad, which is fair. It's kind of just a shitty situation. So totally ruining the mood at this point, Kristen, she's getting ready. She's just trying to chill. And then we hear a knock at the door. And I just want to say, I want to give props to Liv Tyler in this scene, because as soon as you hear that knock, she tenses and she definitely sells that she's actually super scared in this scene. And then Kristen, not being an idiot, she doesn't answer the door actually. She just walks up to the door and says hello. And then that's when they respond saying, is Tamara home? Kristen then is like, dude, reminds her, just being like, dude, you already came here. And then she says, see you later. And then in this moment, that's when Kristen realizes the door's fucking unlocked, which is kind of crazy because, I don't know, man. I lock my shit. I make sure it's locked all the time. So she locks the door and walks away. Kristen's growing more and more anxious. Just because it's kind of creepy. Stuff's kind of weird. The fire alarm goes off, which is kind of like not a vibe, you know. It's kind of, all these things combined feels off, you know what I mean? After Kristen disarms the fire alarm, whatever you want to call it, we get more aggressive knocking at the door, which is just... you know, and of course her cell phone's dead, naturally, of course. 1 second. Hello?
I forgot my keys.
Anyways, after I was rudely interrupted by my boyfriend trying to scare me, Kristen decides to try to call James on the house phone, of course, because her cell phone's dead. Why would it be charged, you know? Of course. Kristen calls James, you know, scared, freaked out, naturally. I mean, who the fuck wouldn't be, asking him to come home from his drive because she just want to be there by herself because... spooky. Kristen's kind of just like pondering like what to do. Like, what the heck? I'm home by myself. All this creepy stuff's going on. She's in the kitchen. We see a masked man appear in the hallway behind her, watching her. She doesn't even know. And then by the time she even thinks that maybe something could be happening, he's gone. Kristen is now moving through the house super carefully, wielding a knife. Smart move. Why not? When she realizes that the fire alarm that she took unplugged from the wall, I know I said that she disarmed it, but she just straight up unplugged that bitch, which, you know, I get. And then she also notices that her cell phone's missing. She had plugged it in on the charger and it's no longer on the charger. This is kind of when Kristen starts to realize like, oh shit, somebody's been in my home. This is when we hear more, you know, frantic begging. And she's just trying to figure out like what to do. She walks up to the curtains and boom. She opens them up and there is the masked man that we saw behind her earlier. Simultaneously, while this is happening, the record player starts playing and then the front door opens to be ajar, revealing the presumably who is the woman who we've been having the on and off camera conversation with, busting through, this time wearing a mask. Kristen, she runs upstairs and is hiding with her knife, you know, just trying to protect herself, trying to be safe. And this is when James comes up. Kristen explains everything that happened, you know, pretty freaked out because, I mean, fuck, there's somebody in her house, people trying to come in, you know, looking at her wearing masks, all that creepy shit. James just kind of doesn't really give a fuck, even though Kristen's in clear hysterics here for good reason, and he doesn't really, like, believe her or care. No wonder she doesn't want to marry you. You don't believe her that there's, like, masked people, like, fucking with her and stuff, and... you drunk drive and you propose to her at somebody else's wedding. Like, dude, I don't really like you. Here we get a shot of Kristen's cell phone actually in the fire. At this point, she's talking to James and explaining that she just thinks that they took it and explaining that somebody's been in her home. She doesn't know that it's on fire, like completely, you know, unusable. James decides to tell her no one has been in the house. Like, cool, dude. Thanks. Okay, let's make sure like everything, I hope everything looks good and sounds okay. And I pick up at the right spot because I just had to like delete 1,000,001 things on my phone and just kind of stop recording. It's a learning curve. We got this. Anyway, so James goes outside to try to find his phone to discover that his car has been totally vandalized. The masked woman, we see her hand crawl up his neck and then she kind of like runs away real quick. Super creepy. And then at this point, James kind of just goes back inside and is like, fuck this. His phone is inside and we see that the phone battery is removed. This is the point when like James is actually convinced like something's going on now that, you know, something happened to him. The couple decides that they need to leave. They need to get the fuck out. Get out of Dodge, you know. And then going out to the car, the masked man is right in front of them. Personally, I don't get it. They realize they're surrounded. The masked man's in front of them, and then we have a second woman introduced to in a pickup truck behind them. For some reason, they have too much of a conscience to like run over the person that's been fucking with them. Maybe I'm just like a little too ready to go when things are going bad, but so they just kind of sit there being like fuck, and then the second woman in the pickup truck rear ends them. James and Kristen, we end up back inside, you know, running back in, realizing like, you know, they can't leave, their car's fucked up. Start searching through the house for a gun, knowing that there might be one. We find a shotgun, and James is struggling to load it, and Kristen's like, wait, I thought you used to go hunting with your dad growing up. And he's like, no, that's just something I said. And I'm like, dude, I don't like you. We have yet another red flag, another reason not to like James. He just casually lied about hunting with his dad, and now they're kind of just like in a shitty situation. Now, James and Kristen, they're sitting in the bedroom, kind of ready to like shoot anybody dead who comes in. This is when James's brother Mike rolls up. He comes and he parks. He calls James first with no answer. He's on the phone with him trying to leave him a message, and then something comes through his windshield, like somebody, like, you know, clearly one of the masked people is fucking with him as soon as they see him, but I don't know what they threw through his windshield. Anyways, Mike gets out of his car and is like ready to investigate. He walks up to the door and notices that James's car is vandalized, and he's kind of like, huh? And then he walks up to the door and sees like it's open, just things are weird. Mike, he knows that something's wrong, and he you know, just lets himself into the house, which is fair. I mean, I would too. As he's kind of walking through the hallway, he's being really careful about it. He's kind of like, you know, trying to be aware of his surroundings, and then since, you know, something's wrong, there's like broken glasses, you know, things like that. Things are just in general disarray. When Mike walks up through the hallway, we see the masked man right behind him, trailing behind. It's so creepy. I love it. However, trigger happy James, as soon as Mike even like, he starts to say hello, he gets cut off before James just straight up shoots him straight in the head, like point blank. So folks, you have it here first. James just shot his brother. Just straight up. The masked man didn't even need to do his job. He just, you know, simplified things by killing him. They go up and try to go look at the person and see, and they see that it's Mike. Obviously distraught. This is when James remembers that there's a radio transmitter in like a barn on the property, and decides that he wants to go try to use it to try to communicate with somebody, let them know they need help. And this is literally like seconds afterward. And you know, I guess I'll just call them the strangers, because that's what they are. They've already written killer on the sliding glass door, and I feel like that was like really quick, like literally like a minute after it happened. Like, did you guys even like have a chance to like leave the house, you know? So James, he just sends it, just wants to go out there. He runs out and is kind of fumbling through the woods with like, you know, a flashlight and the gun. He sees one of the masked women, woman number 2, if you will, and he tries to shoot her right as he's being knocked unconscious by the man, and then we hear a gunshot. Kristen hears a gunshot, and then she decides this is her chance to make a run for it and go see what's going on, despite the fact that she's fucking barefoot running through the woods. Girl, at least make sure you're wearing some shoes. That's like just a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. You know, Kristen, she's fumbling, she's clumsy, she's injured, it's whatever, because she totally ate shit like as soon as she took off, but it's okay. She makes it to the barn, and she is able to make contact via airways, or at least try to. She, you know, does like help, 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 somebody's here kind of thing, when we start to hear sounds coming from the outside. And then as soon as we hear somebody communicating back to her being like, hello, you know, like, what's up? That was really weird. The masked woman number 2, she just takes an axe straight to that radio. So Kristen, she gets back into the house. She's kind of like hobbling and stuff. She's injured. And then she decides to hide in a closet. You know, one of the ones with like the slatted, yeah, that kind of thing. And that's when we have the masked man. He's kind of walking around. If I'm being honest, I don't believe that he doesn't see her. I think he's like completely trolling and walks right past her, kind of just to make her think like, ooh, she's safe. Kristen, at this point, she's spotted by the masked woman, and she bangs on the closet door. Kristen's like, oh fuck, and then they're like, oh fuck. Since, you know, she knows where the fuck she's at, she just decides to come out, and then that's when she's met face to face with the masked woman. just kind of, and then the masked woman, she sees that Kristen, like a dumbass, left her knife on the dining table, whatever, and it's kind of just playing with it, you know, kind of just being like, haha, you know. Injured James crawls through the window, and Kristen, not giving a fuck, and knowing that there is no exit on the ground floor at this point, runs upstairs, just kind of trying to hope for safety. Kristen, she runs upstairs, the masked man attacks her, and then at this point, he just drags her down to the kitchen with the other two women and James. They return to consciousness, but at this point, it's the next morning. It's daylight. They're tied up. Kristen, she's in her outfit from before, like her wedding outfit, you know, looking all cute or whatever. And they've also put her engagement ring on her, which kind of shows that they've been paying attention. They know what's going on between these people. Kristen decides to utter the words, you know, why us? Why'd you choose us? When we get the most chilling response of the fucking decade, the blonde masked woman says, because you were home. So this really could have been anybody at all, you know. Preparing to, you know, commit the act, almost in like a ritualistic way. The trio, they decide to remove their masks and reveal themselves to James and Kristen before killing them. However, us, the audience, we don't get to see them. We're kind of just left wondering, because that's part of the thing, is that it doesn't really matter. You know, they're complete strangers, so they're not revealing who they are exactly. Like, we're not supposed to be like, oh, fuck, it's that guy or whatever. Because it's not really relevant. It's just kind of scary because it's just like, you were met with the person that's going to kill you right then. Kristen, she kind of like pleads and begs, being like, you don't have to do this, like, it's fine, like, you don't fucking kill me. However, then she is rudely interrupted by them stabbing James right then. And here, part of me kind of just wants to talk shit, but then at the same time, it's like, you know, I have to respect the killers for being COVID conscious. They take turns stabbing Kristen and James, yet they wipe the knife off between, and I just gotta say, I kind of appreciate that. At least they're being clean about it, you know. From my understanding, this next scene here is the extended scene that's added for like the unrated version or whatever. We hear Mike's phone ring, and this is kind of when you get like that kind of like stomach sinking feeling of like, you can't help but wonder, like, would this really have happened, or like at least escalated this far? Of course Mike is dead, and you know, James and Kristen are thoroughly traumatized, but you can't help but wonder but if they would still be alive or like okay if they decide to search Mike's body. Kristen, she crawls desperately, still alive, to go grab the phone when we find out that the masked people are still in the home. And the masked man just walks up to Kristen and takes the phone and walks away, leaving her left for dead. Our, you know, spooky ass trio, they leave the home. It's daytime, casually, like nothing. And then that's just when they encounter some like schoolboys, Mormons, I'm pretty sure, walking with their bikes, dressed all nice, and they have some Jesus pamphlets. When one of the women gets out of the car and inquires about it, asking if they could have one. The boys ask like, well, are you a sinner? To which she replies, only sometimes. Walking further down the road, the two boys, they notice the house and be like, whoa, this is crazy. There's like multiple cars here with their windows smashed. Like, this door is like acts the fuck up, you know, like I'm gonna inquire. They walk in and see the bloody mess that was left by the three. Kind of just noticing the blood, the disarray, broken glasses, bodies, of course. Okay, not gonna lie. I feel like I might just send it and do my eyeliner off camera because it's a little hard to concentrate during. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I also decided to apply eyelashes, and while I was gone, that's when I realized I totally fucked up my eyeliner. I did the thing where, like, you know, you do the initial across your eyelid, and I opened my eyes, and then there was just a line in my crease. So I am back. So Where was I? Yeah, that's right. So the kids, they're wandering through the home, kind of just like, what the fuck is going on here? You know, and then this is when one of the boys approaches Kristen, you know, seemingly dead, of course. And then Kristen's still alive, you know, reaches out and, you know, gets that last scare, grabbing the kid's hand and screams, both scaring the shit out of me and the kid. And then there we have it there, folks. That was The Strangers. That is the ending. We are left there with our credits rolling, and then that is it. The reason I love this movie as like an avid horror fan is that this is one of the, you know, few movies that like actually like scare the shit out of me. Of course, we all watch these movies all in good fun, you know. That's kind of why I like it, is I feel like just horror movies are fun. But this movie is actually scary. It taps into the fear of that there doesn't have to be any rhyme or reason. Like, something like this can happen to you no matter what. Even if you are in that safety net that you know, that's your home. Now that we have our finished look, as we can see here, let's discuss our thoughts. I absolutely love this movie. I'll give it 5 screaming Liv Tylers out of 5. To be honest, like, to me, it's that good. From my understanding, that was part of, you know, Bertino's direction, is that this house is supposed to feel like, you know, your family home, or your neighbors, or things like that. It's supposed to feel warm, cozy, inviting, welcoming, all those things that, you know, gives you this false illusion of like a safety net that could just be ripped away from you like that. I just want to say, Liv Tyler, she does a great job of just showing us like real, genuine fear and the sense of helplessness. She doesn't really have many options, so there's not much to turn to. You know, all the cards are here against her. There's just a few things I kind of just want to go over just because I thought it was kind of cool. This set was like an actual house, you know, and then they realized it was like too small for them to actually have a full crew move through, and then they just literally recreated that house as a set, which is like the coolest thing ever to me. I love that kind of thing. So yeah, needless to say, I really love this movie. I think it's good. It's genuinely scary. It sets the tone, sets the mood just right with real scares. Like, we build that tension over and over again without it really feeling old or anything like that. And, you know, it's really easy for us to think of ourselves in that position because it's very much, you know, like a lot of our, you know, comfort zones and things like that, which makes it really scary. Plus, we got some jump scares. We got a bit of it all, some fun killers and things like that. I just want to say, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. This is my first video, so it was a bit of a trial and error experience of like trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, along with loads of technical difficulties that I experienced along the way, some learning curves and things like that. I just want to say thank you if you're here watching this. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. Leave a comment if there's anything you'd like to see me talk about. All right, thanks.